I look back at some of the videos that we used to post and
The
stuff, and
growth
like
is there
some of the
for
shit I
both of
used to
y'all.
say was very cringy. And it did, like I said, some of the stuff did work for me. And I did end up getting bags or getting trips. I even got a car and stuff. But realistically speaking, I think for a lot of girls to look up to women like me and Lex who used to say certain things and think that, or it happened for me and think that this is going to be the reality for everybody, it's just really not. And it's unrealistic. And I feel like that's why people don't have lasting relationships these days.
Mm-hmm.
That's very mature. That's a very mature thing for you to say, and I think it's important for you to say that because I just always feel like even when they be like, 8-figure nigga, that's type like it's like if the average black person makes $45,000,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like okay, the average American makes 50,000. You're saying 8 figures. You're not even saying 6, 7 figures, right?
Right.
You literally are talking about less than probably 0.1% of the population, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which essentially is impossible. Like statistically, if we did this statistically numbers like that, it would be such a small percentage of the population that they wouldn't even count it. It'd be impossible. But you saying like you putting that image out, and I don't want to like it's not pounding on that lyric, but it's just important. Like that imagery is being portrayed to young women, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's like this you're portraying an image that is so unrealistic that you're setting people up for disappointment.
Absolutely. I agree. It's like, okay, you're listening to Poor Minds, and I'm talking about how a dude bought me a Chanel bag on the first date or on the second date. And so now you're going on a date with someone like with a man that makes $50,000. He worked for UPS, and you're expecting him to buy you a Chanel bag on the first date. He can't, that's not even in his price range. That's not even in his budget. He can't afford that. And I feel like it's unrealistic. But these days, those are the expectations that I think most women have with every man that they date, no matter what he does for a living. It's like they're looking up to the girls online who have it, and now it's a requirement in the relationship above other things like morals, character, your relationship with your mama.
For the girls who do want the Chanel bag and the G-Wagon, how do the ladies catch a scent before 2025 comes?
Well, how do they get
yeah,
we talked about this yesterday.
First of all, you gotta date men that can afford those things, and you gotta date men that like you enough to do that for you.
But to play devil's advocate a little bit, me and Drea actually had this conversation yesterday. A lot of those women that chase those bags, those things, if you look at those women that were like turned up in their 20s, they were having their way and chasing, getting the men with the money. A lot of those women are in their 40s and 50s and they still trying to find them one.
Washed and single with a
big fall off. Yeah.
I hate to say I'm not being like, but I mean, it's the truth. So I think it's like, you really have to value a person for who they are. And like you said, like the morals, who they are as a person, that's when you're going to find love. You're going to find yourself older. And not everybody wants to be married in a relationship.
Yeah.
For, the people who want partnership. If you're looking for somebody to take care of you and buy and take you on shopping sprees every day, like, of course, that's a fantasy that we will all love, but it's not realistic.
It's not.
So I think that's the message that we try to get out there. Like, have fun in your 20s. We say that all the time. That's what you're supposed to do in your 20s. Turn up and have a good time, but you can't expect like to be finding love and only if he's going to buy you a Chanel bag or buy you a car and things like that.
Well, also it's not sustainable. Like you brought up a good point, because this is a good conversation. Because even like growing up, there used to be like girls in high school that was like the bads, and they would go in the clubs. They was more advanced for their age. Like we was in school, and they was like going to clubs, dating rappers, and all that. And now they're burnt out, right? And it's like it wasn't sustainable because there's always gonna be somebody younger. There's always gonna be somebody that's better. So it's like even the bad bitch. Eventually, you're gonna become old, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's not sustainable. Like you can only run around in that circle and hustle your way for a certain amount of time before it's over. And then it's like, if you never did anything to establish yourself or establish real relationship, you're left at 40 years old.
And for the fellas too, you can't only run around and chase forever, and you don't want to be the 50-year-old dude in the club chasing 21-year-olds.
But the fellas can, but you can do that though. That's the difference.
But do you want to though?
That's
like
the question.
Do you want to? Yeah. And then I think too, when you spend all of your 20s in those type of relationships, and then you do get to your 30s and 40s and you decide that you're ready to settle down, then you realize you have no relationship skills. You wouldn't even
talk about it.
You're not even a good partner, or you don't even have the qualities to be a good partner because you never took anything seriously.
Hello.
And
I think it's like a lose-lose situation, but I'm glad for us, you know, like we're still fairly young, technically, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So it's like, so it's like I feel like I'm in my early 30s and I've had this epiphany, you know what I mean? Versus like being in my 40s or 50s, finally figuring it out, because that unfortunately is the reality for a lot of men and women, like y'all were just saying.
And I do want to go back to a question that you asked. You were like saying, is this a problem only like in the Black community? Because that is a thing that people say all the time in our comments. They're like, only Black women talk about these things. First of all, I think we all need to realize how social media works. If you signed up for whatever social media app and you were like, oh, I'm African American, I'm 35, male, whatever, that's going to show up in your algorithm. You're seeing mostly Black people in your algorithm, okay? So when I tell you there's a whole world of white podcasts who are talking about the same exact...
Call Her Daddy, the Hawk Tuah girl about to start doing it, like...
And I'm not saying like that's the standard, like, oh, they're talking about it, so it's okay for us. But I think it's crazy that people don't think, like Drea was saying, this is not a Black issue. This is a gender issue.
Yeah.
One of my longest friends that I've had for over 20 years has been my best friend. She's white. When she calls me, we be having the same type of man problems, same type of issues. So it's not like I hate when people do that and be like, oh, Black women are only women that think like this or that talk about this. Other races don't do it. Yes, they do.
I mean, we the only ones that gotta like fight for our lives to get married.
You know?
What you mean? What you mean?
I just feel like in other cultures they're reared that way. Like girls are groomed at a young age to be prepared to like be a wife and be a mother. Right. I just think in the Black community it's not the same. Like Black women, we're more so taught, and I grew up in a 2-parent household, but even still growing up in a 2-parent household, my mother still always instilled in me to be an independent, strong Black woman. I feel like we're not necessarily taught how to grow up and be a good partner, be a wife, and things like that. And I think in other communities, like they're literally reared for that. And I feel like a lot of Black men don't want to get married. I think in a lot of these other communities, men understand that like most of the men that become very successful, they have wives and they have families. It helps with that.
No, I agree. You spoke. I mean, the independent Black woman thing is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
And this goes back to slavery.
It's
a long list, but it's like I've never heard an independent Asian woman. I never heard of a strong independent Latino woman.
Yes.
Indian
He's
woman.
not lying, no.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? I only hear about strong Black woman. That's the only one I've ever heard of, right? And why is that, right? And it's done intentionally. And it's done to separate
our families,
men from women, and to put the woman over the man and cause division. And even if you look at shows like on all of these shows on like primetime television has a Black woman with a white man, right?
Not in the Shonda Rhimes bag. She love it in a relationship now.
She do.
Liv was in love with the president, and
oh my goodness.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but. Or you're elevating white women, but you're elevating Black women, but they can only be elevated with the absence of Black men and with a partner that's white. Right. So what is psychologically, what is that teaching our daughters?
Right.
Yeah. It's all done by design.
And I agree with you on that. But I do think conversations like these are important, though. Like we have to take accountability as women. Men have to take accountability, and we have to find a common ground. I think that's what I was working on personally, going to therapy, just working on myself, it was like, okay, what do I want in a relationship? What do I really, really value? Do I really, really care about things, or am I trying to show off for the internet? So it took me to really sit back and be like, girl, you really don't care about stuff like that. So it was like, once I started putting value on things, family, being around somebody who is a support system, vice versa, I think it's a good balance. Like, I am very much an independent woman, but I need my man. It's very much a household together. Like, we are building a house together, a empire. Like, it's very much a partnership. It's not like, oh, I got it. Well, I'm gonna get it done. If you're not gonna do it, I'm gonna get it done myself. I never have that attitude. It's always like, okay, babe, how can we get this done? But that's something that I'm continuously working on, because I do catch myself doing that. But I think we all have to do the work individually and make that effort to bring, the Black household at the forefront and make it a priority for ourselves.